All right, let's jump right into this explainer. It turns out the deeply traditional maritime shipping industry, the invisible network that literally delivers 90% of everything we own, is undergoing a massive three-pronged evolution. If you've ever found yourself wondering why your goods cost what they do, or how we manage to avoid total global supply chain meltdowns, this is exactly why it matters. We are officially in an era where the old standard rulebooks are crashing headfirst into cutting-edge artificial intelligence and some pretty unprecedented environmental mandates. So let's figure out how the goods that power our world are actually going to get from point A to point B in the coming decades.
To make sense of all this, we're going to break it down into 5 key areas. First, the rules of global trade. Second, the AI and automation wave. Third, the future of maritime jobs. Fourth, the 2050 energy transition. And finally, adapting to the new reality. Let's get to it.
Starting with Section 1, the rules of global trade, establishing the baseline framework.
Before we talk high-tech, we have to ground ourselves in the rules, specifically Incoterms. Published by the International Chamber of Commerce, these are basically the globally accepted terms that dictate exactly when a seller's costs and risks officially hand over to the buyer. It's kind of like a high-stakes, legally binding game of hot potato. And these aren't just polite suggestions. They are tied to international commercial law and accepted by governments all over the world. Every single time a ship gets loaded, these terms are silently dictating the entire financial framework of that voyage.
When you look at how this risk transfers, it's pretty intense. You've got freight collect terms, like FOB, that's free on board, where the buyer takes on the freight charges the second those goods hit the vessel. And on the flip side, you've got freight prepaid terms, like DDP, or delivered duty paid. In that setup, the seller is on the hook for almost all the costs and risks right up to the final destination. It really is a precise relay race of liability.
Moving right along to Section 2, the AI and automation wave, optimizing maritime supply chains.
Now that we've got the rules down, let's talk about the tech. It is absolutely fascinating to see how AI is completely rewiring maritime logistics. If we look at recent empirical data from smaller enterprise exporters, specifically in the India-Thailand trade corridor, it is crystal clear that AI is no longer just some fancy luxury. Driven by a combination of tech readiness and perceived usefulness, tools like intelligent cargo tracking and dynamic route optimization are literally critical now. They massively boost what we call maritime supply chain resilience, which basically means they keep the whole operation running smoothly even when global networks face severe disruptions.
All right, Section 3, the future of maritime jobs. The human element in a digital age.
22%. That is a pretty stark number, right? According to a massive 2-year study by the World Maritime University, which was funded by the International Transport Workers Federation, that 22% represents the projected drop in global demand for seafarers over the next 20 years, all thanks to automation. When you hear a stat like that, your first thought is probably that human mariners are just being entirely replaced by algorithms.
But here is the really fascinating twist. That exact same study actually predicts that the sheer growth in world seaborne trade is going to offset that 22% job decline. So there is absolutely going to be a sustained demand for skilled, experienced seafarers. The shift to automation, it's going to be an evolution, not a revolution. As ITF General Secretary Stephen Cotton rightly points out, workers just need to be equipped with the right expertise for the jobs of tomorrow.
And that creates a huge shift in what actually makes a mariner valuable today. On one hand, you've got your traditional routines, stuff like manual cargo planning and fixed interval maintenance, which are facing a ton of pressure from automation. But on the other hand, we are seeing a massive demand for new skills. We're talking data literacy, cybersecurity awareness, and this really cool concept called calibrated skepticism. Basically, that's the ability to critically interpret and question complex AI data alerts. So the future engine room officer isn't just going around doing manual checks, they're actively managing and evaluating these highly integrated digital systems.
Next up is Section 4, the 2050 energy transition, navigating the green horizon.
This brings us to a pivotal question posed by DNV's highly respected maritime forecast to 2050. Is the global fleet actually reaching a fuel transition tipping point? I mean, is the industry truly ready to completely overhaul its massive energy infrastructure? The regulatory landscape around greenhouse gas emissions is incredibly complex right now, and finding a decarbonization strategy that actually makes financial sense is pretty much the defining challenge of modern shipping.
While the fleet's readiness is definitely surging, get this, by 2030, alternative-fueled ships are going to have the capacity to consume over 50 million tons of oil equivalent, or MTO, per year in low greenhouse gas fuels. That is a staggering scale-up in green infrastructure. Actually, the number of alternative-fueled vessels out there on the water is expected to almost double by just 2028. So the ships themselves, they are absolutely getting ready.
But, and it's a big but, there is a harsh fuel supply reality we have to talk about. While the fleet is ready to burn that 50 MTO, the total global supply of low GHG fuels is only projected to hit somewhere between 70 and 100 MTO by 2030. And that's across all industries, not just shipping. Shipping is realistically only going to secure a tiny fraction of that pie. So even with the ships good to go, getting enough fuel at a competitive price is a gigantic hurdle. The takeaway here? The industry can't just put all its chips on one magic fuel source. It has to build a diverse portfolio of solutions.
To bridge that massive fuel gap, we are seeing some truly incredible emerging tech taking hold. For instance, onboard carbon capture could slash emissions by up to 19% for certain bulker, tanker, and container fleets. And this is my favorite part. We are literally looking back to the wind. Seriously, the high-tech future of shipping involves giant, optimized sails. These wind-assisted propulsion systems are already delivering anywhere from 5 to 20% in annual fuel savings, and under the right favorable conditions, they've even peaked at about 30% reduced energy consumption. You combine that kind of tech with digital route optimization, and suddenly hitting those 2050 zero-emission goals actually seems possible.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5. Adapting to the new reality, bringing it back to the human element.
So with all this change, how do you actually future-proof your career? Elite Mariners lays out a remarkably clear, actionable roadmap for this. First off, you've got to embrace digitalization training. Really familiarize yourself with advanced vessel tools like integrated bridge systems. By building up a versatile, adaptable portfolio, mariners can even pivot into high-demand shoreside tech roles like becoming a fleet performance analyst. Ultimately, the most valuable professionals in this space are going to be the ones who actively bridge their hard-won traditional sea experience with this brand-new digital fluency.
Look, this transformation of the global supply chain, it isn't some distant, abstract threat. It is happening right now, on literally every ocean on Earth. AI is not the enemy here, and decarbonization definitely isn't just a passing trend. So we'll leave you with this. Will you let the rising tide of automation and decarbonization sink your career, or will you use it to chart a course to genuine digital fluency? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep adapting, and we'll see you in the next one.